I like where this is going.
Oh yes, President John Mahama, leading all Ghanaians, is acting in the right direction. In the right direction because you have made it clear. He is not doing that because he wants to unite Africa only. It may be part of his agenda. But he's primarily doing that because he doesn't want the overflow of terrorism and extremism to come to Ghana. So in that direction is fine. But his agenda is different from that of the young man. And you know why? Your first question, I'm now coming there. Haven't disagreed with him, right? Factually, I'm now coming to your question. You see the young man, people have seen in him, particularly Africans, have seen in him a sense of hope to dismantle neocolonialism, imperialism, hegemonism, and all forms of bad influence coming from the West. So that sense of hope is in that young man. Depending on how he manages that collective hope, I strongly believe it may not be today, but he can lay down a foundation of African Renaissance. Thank you.
Solo, why do you also disagree with President Kennedy?
There is no doubt that Africa there is absolutely no doubt. If you are a continent that does not control any of your resources, all your resources are in the hands of the West, then you cannot claim to be holding your own destiny. You were in this country or continent that Africa sat down for the West to forcibly remove Gaddafi.
Yes.
You were here. We hadn't gone anywhere. In fact, the AU was as toothless as anything. They were even supporting Sarkozy and Tony Blair together with Obama. He calls himself a black man.
Yes.
Obama. I have never liked that man.
Oh.
They removed Gaddafi forcibly. They killed him. In fact, who can go to the US and kill any of their president from Africa?
And we sat down.
We sat down. We couldn't do it. In fact, our people were providing the information. How did the West get to Libya?
Africa, your problem.
No problem.
We have a big problem.
They want to get to Burkina. What are they using? Is it not
their own people.
Cote d'Ivoire? Is it not
Africa? Can you imagine?
This is how so they can only get to Cote d'Ivoire by using African countries. So we know it, and that is why those in the, you see, this battle is not being fought by those in Africa.
No.
It is the Africans in the diaspora who have seen what it is to live in someone's continent, trying to undo the wrongs of the past. So they are mobilizing, and you must have a reason to mobilize. So Traore, several times I have pointed to you here that he's not my. I don't support his cause. Yeah. But the African wants to have a rallying point.
Yeah.
To fight the battles of yesterday. I keep saying that our forebears, they were very intelligent, they were very smart. They outsmarted all these Caucasians that you worship. And that is why we have the better part of the world. The entire world, we have the better part. It is we that have the best of lands for growing all sort of foods or crops.
Weather.
Minerals. Every mineral we can have here. Weather, we only have 2 seasons.
Yes, very nice one.
People have 4. They say fall, autumn, winter, all terrible. When it's summer, all of them come out. We have it in abundance. River bodies. Yeah. We have to the extent that we have prekese. Do you know prekese?
I know prekese. I ate prekese.
So we have the better part of the world, but they have been able to change the narrative because if we want to destroy the people, destroy their history. Africans, we don't know our history. So let one idiot Caucasian come to this country, even the women are following him.
Yes.
If you don't take care.
That's when we also go there, the women follow us.
But that one because of something, even because of something. But ours.
Because of what?
Yiribaba. Because of Yiribaba. That's what
academic performance, right?
You know, academic performance, they have been told. Because of that, some of them go to Gambia. You know they go to Gambia. Which people? The white.
They go to Gambia.
Gambia.
What's in Gambia?
They say they have the biggest Yiribaba.
Are you praying tongues? What's Yoruba Baba? I don't know what Saleh is talking about this morning. Yoruba Baba.
I'm taking to Gambia.
You don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know. What's Yoruba Baba?
The way you go to Gambia, you understand the book.
I see.
Funny. So
At the point, Gambian government won
yes.
that he will never sit down for old ladies, old white ladies to come and
Sex attraction. Sex attraction is the number one foreign exchange earner for Gambians.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that.
That's sexual.
So it's tourism.
Yeah.
So that's the Yoruba Baba. Ah, I see. Okay. I see.
Period. I can tell you.
So look at Yoruba Baba.
Loyal ladies. That's a coach. I'll end it here. I will say for
I'm not talking of loyal ladies. I'm talking of royal ladies. Royal ladies.
So now you mean the Yoruba is taking a new colonialism?
That is the only they see us as the only use they can put us to. But you know that does also work. They are putting us to work. Yeah.
Oh, look at you.
You see.
So you mean now the new slavery?
Go there, you see them in abundance.
Oh wow. This is totally news to me. But anyway, we learn every day. So
Yeah.
But on a serious
So
note,
the new colonialists will come, and then we will also impose on them romantic colonialism.
Dr. Yoruba Baba. The two of them, no, but you see, all that. Today's show has been a Yoruba show. But you see, on a serious note, I think that I agree in part to what my colleagues have said, and the bright little star that's shining to our, north. But there's a brighter star shining right here. Sometimes prophets are not accepted in their own land, and I think I see the beginnings of something great. With the fact that President Mahama has a one term, and he wants to make it his legacy term, I think that the things he's doing right now are going to set us, on the right, footing for a good takeoff. We must not also discount the possibility of working closely with our allies around us, and I see that job that Colonel Beblodati is doing as the starting point. I see also the need for every single appointee of his to, as it were, follow the leader and do as the leader does. Next is that we must expand it beyond his appointees. For example, I see this code of ethics, and I've been, shuffling through social media, and I see a lot of people talking about the code of conduct and other related stuff, but within a certain negative context. I want to see the expansion of that to cover all public officials. If you know the declaration of assets or assets declaration does not cover just appointees of the president, namely his close appointees. It includes judges. Of course, judges are appointed by the president by the constitution. The EC chair, same, Sraj, boss, and others. But it goes beyond people who can be appointed by the president, like IGP and so on. It's supposed to cover everybody. And you are supposed to, as it were, declare upon assumption of office. And also every 4 years. And then exit. Upon exit. Now, I don't know whether all the people who exited with the last government have declared their assets. It's important because even as we look at a very good point.
Even as we look at this anti-corruption drive and the need for the oral, in the face of us all being aware that there's been some serious corruption that has gone on, we know the mother serpent did his part, but we also know that the baby serpents are still, as it were, carrying some loot. We've seen Edubahin trying to pretend to be spilling beans, which is actually rubbish. I mean, I don't know what kind of advice he got from Atachia and the rest before he did what he did. That stunt they pulled didn't work. That diversionary stunt didn't work. What I am beginning to suspect is that these rules is that they are, churning
they were hoping that this could be turned into a political football, and then hopefully have us discussing this thing on a totally political, tangent. The other, bit that I see, closely is the fact that, what do you call it? Somebody has sneaked into town. That's Ken Oforiatta.
Oh, he's in town now.
His deadline has long expired. If he's not in town, he's a fugitive. No, so he's still a fugitive. So why is he not being arrested by the OSP or any other?
No, they reviewed it. Afena came to say he will be in town in May. And then later, OSP came and said it should be June.
No. Look, the OSP has no business playing games with us.
I told you long ago.
No, honestly, I think that this OSP, he should resign. If he cannot do the job, he should resign. So they have no task on this man. No. He's out there possibly cleaning the books.
Yes.
We saw...
do you know when I lost?
What is going on?
Do you know when I lost confidence in the office of the special? Or in fact, the SP,
the special prosecutor.
Myself and Solo petitioned the SP.
He has it. He has not even.
He's not even acknowledged to us.
He's not even acknowledged.
Yes, we filed a petition with the special prosecutor.
13 All Africa Games.
The 13th All Africa Games. Yeah, myself and Solo.
That's Bedeto's wife, right?
Yes. $15 million for food.
He has learned that one in chasing BC or whatever that there was bribery.
No, but look, we need to get.
I told people, you see.
No, but honestly, I think that this your oral must work thing. In fact, over the weekend, a lot of people were, kind of praising you guys for that initiative, and I think that the oral must work must also be on the back of the special prosecutor, because it will take those who have been put in these positions to work for the thing to work. Yeah. If the Attorney General refuses to prosecute those people, oral will not work, because he's been given the oral report.
Exactly.
The same with the special prosecutor, and I don't know how this thing works, but is it possible for both of them to chase one man?
It should be.
Trying, like 2 trials running concurrently on the same person over the same issue, and it will not be double jeopardy?
I mean,
you are the lawyer. I mean, Ken Oforiatta is alleged to have stolen our money. Edu Buahin is alleged to have stolen our money. Now, let's say the OSP goes after him. OSP is not doing a good job. Attorney General wants to do a better job. Can Attorney General go and prosecute the matter? Because Ken Oforiatta is working free because of this is the special prosecutor. If he's in the States claiming to be sick, and yet you can see the man is not sick, and you are just giving him free exit. What do you know he's doing? The man owns a tax avoidance company in the Cayman Islands. We all know that. Here in Gajepo. This man is being in the financial sector. He's an investment broker, and so on. He knows how to push money around. Let the man,
we're not even starting discussing our main topic. What is going on? All right. Dr. Mawazu just excused us for a minute. He will be back. Dr. Sylvie Solo. Dr. Sylvie said I should ask you. He said, good morning, Kewdi. Tell Solo to fully explain the Heribaba very well. And explain how it connects to neo-colonialism. Otherwise, tell him to come and pay tithe to me. Tell him that if he cares to know, Heribaba is how I speak my tongue.
No, this one there, when we meet at that corner, then we'll explain it further.
We have corners that you do Heribaba. Prince, you know, yes, look. He says he and Dr. Sylvie, they have a corner that they do the Heribaba. So, all right, next topic. I think it's important to discuss the economy. S&P raises Ghana's rating on the economy. So let me respectfully start with you. To be fair, the dollar has seen some stability, and it is important that we give commendation to who commendation is due. And clearly, we can also attest to the fact that this administration has been very frugal with expenditure. Yeah. This administration appears not to be spending more than it is making. Yeah. Because it is only a fool who will spend more than they make. How is it that you make 2 cedis and you are spending 7 cedis? Where are you going to get the 5 cedis from? So this administration is showing signs of, if you like, care and caution. All right. Beyond that, you can also see that, import inflation is a little stabilized. I don't know if you've noticed that, and food inflation is also stabilized. So look, what is the magic? I don't understand it. What is the magic? Now the fundamentals are not weak. Is it that now we are not borrowing 2.2 billion and we will misuse it? Are we saying that we don't need e-levy so we can go and cut cake and enjoy our lives at the expense of the taxpayer? We won't, and even now, the betting tax is off. The e-levy is off.
Yes.
Yes. And yet somehow this administration is doing miracles.
Yes. Kwame, I mean, rightly so. You give praises where it is due. If the dollar begins to rise against our currency, we'll definitely bash the governor of Bank of Ghana together with the economic management team. So if it is going down, the last time I heard Kofi Benti say we must give the praise to Dr. Bawumia because the dollar is coming down. Why is it that we are not, as a country, we shudder to give praise where exactly is due? You understand? As we speak, Dr. Bawumia is not the governor of Bank of Ghana. Neither is he the finance minister. It takes, what do you call him? Siama. Siama is the governor of Bank of Ghana, together with his team. They are the one given the sole responsibility of stabilizing our currency. So if the currency is stable, then you cannot bypass Dr. Percival.
Dr. Pandit.
That Pandit is coming from.
I don't know.
Dr. Pandit.
Johnson Pandit.
Esiama. I have to give him that respect. I have to praise him for whatever he's doing. We must rather encourage him and his team to continue to do whatever they are doing. That is seen to the fall of the major currencies. You see, if it was only the dollar that was falling, then you can even make the argument that I've heard people make that is because of the trade war, the U.S., China engaging themselves. But all the other major currencies are also falling to the city. What it means is that they must continue doing what they are doing best. And government must also support them with domestic production or import substitution. You see, it's not enough to be using monetary tools to bring or stabilize a currency without also engaging in actual production. Else, once demand goes up, it will surely affect your currency. So, yes, they are doing that, but programs and policies like the Nkoko Nkitikiti that they promise, very important. If you are able to have the importation of poultry by half, reduce the importation by half, you would have made some gains or saved a lot of dollars. If you are going to, and now I've seen the policy programs of the current Minister of Agric. I think he's very beautiful. He's a pragmatic. I read some bits and pieces of it online, and
I see.
I see the way and manner he wants to send agriculture to the doorsteps of the community. That is what we need. Agric must not be done in hotels. It's a field operation. You understand? So let us go onto the field, like what I've read from him. He really wants to send agriculture to the doorsteps of the communities and let every Ghanaian embrace it. So that we can also have the importation of tomatoes from Burkina, the importation of tin tomatoes and so on and so forth, sugar. Once we do that, our currency will stabilize forever. And beyond that, I don't know what it takes or it will take for them to hedge our currency. I believe it's something that they must know. So that if we are going to hedge it for, say, 5 years, 10 years, it will allow businesses to plan. In this country, businessmen and women cannot plan because you don't know the fate of your currency. Whether if you are planning today is 13, tomorrow to jump to 16. How can you live in an uncertain country like that? So it is right that Standard & Poor will also review their rating. But for the first time, I mean, I have never been agreed with former President Akufo-Addo, but there was a time that he made a statement that I agreed that Africa must also have its own ratings. It is very, very important because you see, Standard & Poor, they represent the interests of the United States of America. They represent investors who are in America that wants to come to Africa. It's one of the tools that they use in persuading people not to come to our part of the world. They as it were, rate you as a junk country. Meanwhile, they are here taking our goals out. You get my point. Moody's will also come in. They are representing the interests of of Europe. So you see them giving you a junk rating, and nobody can. Can you imagine during COVID? All of us were having GDP in the hundreds. Yeah, they were rating African countries junk, and the West okay. So we need, as Africa, these are tools that hampers our
So from what you said, why do you think we are seeing some stability in the economy, not the currency?
Yes.
You see, I think Gold Board recorded about some 2.7 million USD in revenue.
Yes.
So, and you know that, again, basic economists will tell you that if you build your currency on reserves, you see some stability.
Yes.
And I'm not taking the shine away from the governor of the Bank of Ghana. I think he's done a very good job.
Yes.
Now, but from where you sit, what is accounting for the changes that we are seeing in the economy, the performance of the economy? What is accounting for that? And let's do proper juxtaposition. Because we had a previous regime, where at some point inflation was around 54%, where unemployment was around 14.7%, food inflation 50-something%. So I want us to do the juxtaposition. Let's do the juxtaposition, because we need to know where the previous administration went wrong and where this particular administration, or what this particular administration is doing right. And once we are able to now do the juxtaposition, then we can identify what to do going forward as a nation in the event that there is even a change of government, or there's a continuation or continuity of government. Then we have sort of like a roadmap, a blueprint that we are going to use for the purposes of stabilizing the economy. From where you sit?
Kwame, is a combination of factors. First of all, was the corruption levels and the former administration.
Corruption is one.
You see, when there is a change of government and investors have some levels of confidence in an economy, immediately they reinvest in the economy. As we speak, there seems to be some level of confidence in this economy. So businessmen that hitherto were engaging in capital flight have all of a sudden decided to bring back their money. And that is why only yesterday or so you heard Talu say that they are interested in reinvesting about $2 billion into the petroleum sector. That's what it does.
And the Cosmos Energy deal.
Yes, you understand. It is, they are breathing a new sigh of relief. They believe that once there is a new government in place, they can now do a better job than what was prevailing in the previous circumstances. That is positive, and that is why there was a need for the change of government. You are reducing corruption, you are bringing in more new confidence into FDI and so on and so forth. So this is accounting for it. Again, frivolous expenditure, you are not seeing it that much. You see, when you begin to put money into the hands of wrong personnel or people, then they tend to spend anyhow. And once they are expending anyhow, fewer goods, or money chasing fewer goods, your inflation will go up, and that is what affects your currency. This country is the only country where people will just have money and say we are changing our money into dollars for no reason. They are not going to buy anything outside this country. They say we are only changing our money. Then they all of a sudden go to the market and change their money into dollars, putting pressure.
There's something that I was told by a friend. It got me really alarmed. The person said, "Oh, the CD is the dollar is dropping, so I want to go and buy more dollars."
Yes.
In the event that when the dollar rises, then he would have more. I mean, in terms of the CD, he would have more.
Yes.
Now I'm thinking, why would you do that?
I mean, it's sad, you know, and that is why laws and regulations are very important. Kwame, you have traveled before. A country like that, I'm not going to even go to Europe. You go to South Africa. You dare not.
Rwanda. Where you are going to South Africa? Rwanda.
You dare not. And I'm very surprised that in this country, what even saddens my heart is that those that are engaging in black market exchange of forex are Nigerians. They are from Niger. What country is that serious that will allow foreigners to come and openly, you get to circle, come, we are changing, you get to Turu. And there seems to be no national security in this country. Look, forest bureaus, you get to any serious country, and before you can change your money, the hell that you go through.
So let me tell you what happens in Rwanda. You can only change money at the airport.
And even Rwanda, you might give a reason.
No, that's what I'm saying. That Rwanda, when you bring USD into their country, you can only change that money at the airport. They don't accept any form of currency which is not Rwandan francs. Nothing. Airport, you change before you enter the country.
It's a leadership crisis. I mean, you show strong leadership. You go to the whole of UAE, say Dubai, hardly would you see, and most of the companies are European, hardly would you see any of them price their items in dollar. All of them dirham. Why are they not pricing in dollar or euro? Because leadership. Nobody even thinks of going to change his or her money into dollar or dirham. But in this country, Ghana, even if you don't take it, the bill seller will quote in dollar. We are so much fascinated with the use of dollar. Meanwhile, our currency is cedi. And it's problem. And so, once there is leadership, once government, and government is part of the problem anyway, because you go to certain institutions like the Minerals Commission, they price in dollar. You go to, what's the name, the port, our duties are priced. Why are you looking at my face like that?
No, it's okay. Proceed.
Don't remind me of something.
Proceed.
I don't want you to remind me.
Proceed with caution.
We have a friendly, we have a gentleman's agreement, and you want to change the equation.
No.
So editorial plan.
Were you Katanga or Konti?
Officially, I'm a Katagi.
Okay, so let's stay there.
No, but
Fellow.
Child.
Thank you very much.
So, mommy,
no, this cannot be happening across me. What's going on?
No,
that we are discussing the La Lance. That people must be careful with the way a mother they want to dissipate that land. We will not sit down for them to.
I'm also not involved.
So the dollarization of our economy is
Oh,
problematic.
I know what you're talking about. You mentioned gold board. Now you're talking about
You never mentioned gold board.
You said the gold board has made some money. Minerals Commission.
So you mentioned Minerals Commission.
Minerals Commission.
Thank you very much.
I've decoded your...
So we need to, as a matter of urgency, stop dollarizing our economy. Prices of real estate.
Oh, massa.
Everyone is quoting dollar.
Oh, massa.
And we sit down and we don't want to do anything about it. That is not fair.
Vehicles.
Everything is dollar. If you want us to change our currency from cedi to the dollar, let us go and see the United States of America and say, look, now we have realized that the Ghanaian is so much interested in your dollar. We want to change our currency. But this business of throwing away our cedi is what is not helping.
Or maybe we'll become the 51st
So
state.
one of the
Canada will.
one of the most important components of economic revitalization is the linkage between trade and industry.
Yes.
And oftentimes, most of the governments that we've had have not really focused their attention on trade
Yes.
and industrialization.
Yes.
To the extent that we may even have trade policy, but there's no interlinkage between the trade policy and industry.
Yes.
And so that has always been a bottleneck, right?
Yes.
From what you said, how can we design a policy that marries trade and industry, and by extension bring about exploitation? And I'll explain to you why. If you look at the revenue that we generated, I think in 2022 or 23 thereabout, right? A lot of it came from the three commodities that we export.
Yes.
So we are looking at gold, we are looking at oil, we are looking at cocoa.
Yes.
There was a sharp decline in the exportation of cocoa around COVID-19 time, because we export mostly to Asia, and you know, as a raw commodity with no value addition.
Yes.
And so if you look at the revenues that we generated from it, it was quite insignificant,
Yes.
right? And also because there was some decline in the appetite for for chocolate.
Yes.
So around that time, we lost a lot of revenue.
Yes.
Then if you look at gold really helped.
Yes.
You know, in stabilizing our economy, particularly through this illegal means, illegal mining and a small scale mining and all that. They contributed quite significantly to our GDP. So you can say that yes, you know, but even then it was raw. There was no value addition to it. Then you're looking at oil. Oil, yes, significant, but also we have challenges with our refinery setup, and so we are not really generating as much for export. Now, if you look at industry, where there's that lacuna, if we are able to invest hugely in industry, then it means that the trade diversification that we've always been experiencing as Ghanaians would go down. Because if you look at trade, for instance, when the trade war happened between China, you know there's a second trade war.
Yes.
The first one happened when Trump came.
Yes.
And if you look at how the Ghanaian market suffered, right?
Yes.
They suffered because a lot of the commodities were now exported or diverted to the African market,
yes.
right, from China. Now, that affected our textile industry. And so what it means is that even though you are producing, people are not buying because number one, in terms of, you know, raising money to fund their industries,
yes.
government supports them.
Yes.
We don't have governmental support.
Yes.
And so how you will price your products is even
yes.
different. So there's always that challenge.
Yes.
How do we look at these overarching challenges, you know, and the nuanced conversations relative to really creating a revitalized economy, right, and build the industry sector? Now, in my research, you know, I wrote a paper on it. In my research, one of the things that I found that we could actually leverage is one district, one factory.
Yes.
Albeit that the implementation of it had some challenges, right?
Yes.
But we cannot relegate it to the background because it actually plays a very important role if you're looking at industry and trade and the measure of same. All right? So, and I'm also learning that this government has scrapped one district, one factory and things like that. And I'm a little unsettled about it, you know, because a policy that potentially can help, but we have relegated it to, in fact, we've scrapped it without necessarily looking at the positives that underlines the formation or the creation of that, you know, one district, one factory policy, and maybe do it better for the purposes of exportation. Given this background, right now, I know I've spoken a lot, but given this background, how do we now marry, you know, all of these other components that I've spoken about for the purposes of ensuring a more stable and robust economy? Because what we are seeing now, yes, superficially appears good, but something cannot be built on nothing, right? So if the foundations are not really strong, you would notice that if the stills are washed away by a tsunami, the economy will come crashing. So how do we now look at the other interlinkages and see how they can all, before I come to Dr. Marazek?
Any government that does not have deliberate intentions will always fail. You see, every government has a deliberate policy of growing industries. So the one district, one factory you are talking about is one of those deliberate policies that the previous administration brought in with a view to bringing up a lot of industries specific to various areas. Every country concentrates on areas that has comparative advantage. You understand? You look at your import bills and see where your money has been shipped out and take the steps to address it. And that is why the one district, one factory came in. The problem we have in that part of the world is it is expensive to access capital.
Fantastic.
So expensive. Kwame, I don't know who is ever giving anybody advice. And to the governor of Bank of Ghana, please don't go on the tangent of those that are applying alien economics.
Do the Ghanaian economics.
Be real.
Yes.
There is nowhere in this world. Always the Bank of Ghana is increasing the policy rate, saying that it's going to use to checkmate inflation. I disagree. I disagree because it is not as though there are a lot of money in the hands of the Ghanaian chasing fewer goods. That is not the case. That is not what is leading to our inflation. Our inflation is brought about because we import a lot of goods into this country, and it is imported inflation.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
So already the goods are expensive out there. That's number one. Number two, you will need forex to be buying those goods. So once more dollars chasing fewer goods, obviously your city will depreciate, and that will make goods expensive here. So if you want to turn things around, you must target certain sectors of the economy. Let the interest rate there be single, deliberate. For instance, we are giving all those going into rice farming an interest rate of 1%. It doesn't spoil anything. That is how we must be using snake money for. Because snake money is a pension fund, which is a long-term fund. So if you are giving it to industries at such a reduced rate, industries will produce to save you from importing those goods into this country. The goods that they will be producing will be cheap. Not that people do not come to this country to produce certain goods. So when they come, the interest rate with which they work with is so expensive. So at the end of the day, their goods become so expensive. They are unable to compete with your China, with your Japan, with your US, and so they fizzle out.
And because of the the international trade treaties,
that is it.
You can't also say that the products that are coming in,
you not allow it. You will allow.
But that is why sometimes it's also very important to look at your tariff measures and your non-tariff measures.
Very, very important.
So that you can, because of course, production is very expensive.
You know, recently Dangote has given the indication that is in to establish the sugar factory. You know, he started that discussion with Mr. Chamante.
Okay. Oh, okay.
All the blueprint. People in this country, we don't give honor where it's due. He did everything with him. He advised him that he needed to establish the plantation here and not to be doing what the Indians want to do, that they bring the sugar cane here, come and process. They'll be using Ghana as a dumping site. That the full implementation could not actualize, because if you look at our data on imports, sugar.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's not just Ghana, Nigeria,
Kenya.
Niger. So
the difference here is that if you look at East Africa, Kenya, according to the president Uhuru Kenyatta, at the time, he made the point that he imports more sugar from within Africa than from Brazil.
That's good.
That's why he said that he was trying to look at the intra-African trade.
But that is what we need.
Yeah.
That is what Africa needs.
Yeah.
For instance, Ghana must be noted for the production of certain goods. Nigeria must be noted for the
beautiful.
And that's how you build
the intra-market.
That is it. So we need to go back. The one district, one factory is a good policy. Go and think it well. Whatever was the bottlenecks, and what I saw from the previous administration had to do with access to cheap funding. You know, at a point, the minister was fighting for guarantees to be given to companies so that the interest rate will be reduced to a single digit. That could not materialize. So let's go back on that, and then we will be fine.
Thank you. Dr. Mazouk, the economy is performing beautifully. And per the information we have, it is performing because of government's frugality with expenditure. Government has decided not to spend more, and not investing in unnecessary ventures, and not engaged in corruption and all of that, right? I mean, of course, it's early days yet, but we can all safely assume that by reason of some of these immediate measures that government has put in place, we're seeing some development, right? Now, when we looked at it, we also looked at it from the perspective of the performance of the city, and also linked it to the production of gold, and the fact that now the gold reserves that we have is sort of augmenting government efforts in stabilizing the currency, because every currency must be built on something, right? So we are building ours on gold, right? Albeit that if the cocoa sector was performing better, if the oil sector was performing better, they would have had 3 strands of reserves that could be used to protect the city, right? But now, currently, the one commodity that is sort of helping us stabilize our city is the gold. So that is it. But beyond that is also the question of sustainability, right? And Solo myself, I pointed out the difficulty that I have with government for particularly cancelling the one district, one factory project. I have heard some argument which appears to me that they want to replace it with 24-hour economy, because the explanation of the 24-hour economy that I'm getting now finds expression in the basic or the rudimental understanding of the implementation of the one district, one factory. If that is the case, I don't have a problem with it, right? But in order that we can sustain what we are building, it must be built on different stills. First one, yes, but what are the other stills? Trade, industry, export, agriculture, right? How do we look at the synergies, you know, and because there's an understanding that there's a symbiotic relationship between them, those things I've mentioned, and the performance of the economy. So how do we build that synergy to create that room for a more sustainable economy, as opposed to a fictional, fleeting, superficial performance of the economy?
Thank you so much. First of all, let me say that I am not an economist.
Oh yeah.
But I am a student of economic wisdom, because I spend, and therefore whatever I'm going to say should be taken as the perspective of an ordinary sensible person dealing with economic matters. Your question is very clear. It is the intention of the government to save our economy. And if the government intends to do so, then government should be able to come out with realistic mechanisms. And one of those realistic mechanisms is the gold CD or gold dollar relationship that you have just mentioned. Now, we need to also understand that we cannot sustain that if we continue to be heavily reliant on exportation instead of importation. And that is my little wisdom. The moment you position yourself to be a recipient, not a giver, that alone develops a kind of a dependency mentality in terms of economic improvement rather than self-reliance, because you will be depending more on people, and there is too much of pressure on dependency. Just imagine if you want to go and tell somebody to give you money. If you have conscience, it's the most difficult thing that one can do. So, but then if you are able to build a high, an appreciable level of self-reliance, then that self-reliance alone in managing your economy, you should be able to tame the dollar and other bigger currencies. So my suggestion here is to emphasize industrialization. And that is why I agree with you that I don't see the sense in scrapping the one district, one factory. The concept is one thing, and the implementation another. It was a beautiful concept, but it was badly implemented. And if President John Mahama and his government want us to believe that whatever is good for this country is good for them, then we are appealing to them to reconsider that decision, because we have confidence in them. We have confidence in President Mahama, we have confidence in NDC, we have confidence in government. And we know very well that if they look at it from the perspective of patriotism, not partisanship, they should look at it as something that is beneficial to the state, not something that was introduced by their opponents. If you see it that way and tackle it from the patriotic point of view, definitely it will do us good. Because one of the reasons will be funding. And I want to believe that if they mean well, they can do everything possible to look for sources of funding. Again, there should be sincerity in whatever we are doing. Because at the end of the day, if we are able to galvanize all the support, all the material, all that we need, and there's no sincerity, definitely we are going to suffer. Let me also say that it is too early to be frank with you. The commitment is there, but it is too early to conclude on the commitment of this government to the anti-graft struggle, anti-corruption fight. It is too early to conclude. We can always assume, but at the end of the day, let the president prove that our assumption is right. Our assumption is that it is committed, but the way things are going, definitely, if at the end of the day the president fails to live up to expectation, he and his party will suffer the most disastrous humiliation.
I engaged with had a chat with the trade minister, you know, and my reason for engaging with her was because, you know, I'm a student of trade and industry, so international trade. So I wanted to engage with her and perhaps have broader conversations about the concept of the one district, one factory and its relevance in today's Ghana. Because if we are looking at total reset and transformation of the economy, we must do so with the intentment of continuing projects that are laudable and projects that must be sustained, right? But of course, she initially agreed. She said she was traveling, she would come back and get back to me. She never did. I called her, she didn't pick, so I left it, right? But it is important to have these conversations because there is no separation between industry and economy.
No.
There's no separation. And sometimes I find it very laughable when it appears that we are talking about the economy and the only sector that comes to mind is the Finance Ministry, Bank of Ghana, right?
Everything in the country is an economy.
Yes.
Everything.
You understand? Absolutely. You know, but I am saying trade because Ghanaians love to trade.
Yes.
And so that will be the, you know, easy access, especially for most people who want to talk about, you know, the economy, the transformation of it and things like that. And also, if you look at the various sectors, it appears that it is the one that we have not really explored.
Yeah.
That particular industry is what we have not really
because
explored.
The structures are not there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we wanted to have conversations about how we can all collectively, you know, bring out suggestions that may potentially look at how we can use trade to support the economy. But eventually she didn't. But so the point I'm actually trying to make is that as we speak today, do you know about our trade policy?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Do you know about our industry policy?
No.
Is there a mergence?
No.
Or a merger, really, between our trade policy and then our industry policy?
Of course.
There should be
you don't need to be an expert before you know.
Exactly.
Yes.
But as we speak, practically, do we have that merger?
No,
that's the thing.
So, yes.
So that is what I want you to conclude on, and then I'll come to press.
Yeah, so I strongly believe that we are all learning. Even governments are learning. What was good for us yesterday may not be good for us today. If concerned people like you have been able to identify some problems in relation to the symbiosis between trade and industry, I think it should be a very good lesson for the government to consider. And it is important for all of us to also understand that no matter how competent the finance minister is, no matter how competent the Bank of Ghana governor is, no matter how competent any other sector in relation to the economic development is, they are still expected to listen to good pieces of advice. And I think this piece of advice coming from you should be taken into consideration. And if they do so, they may even be able to figure out, as experts, because we are just speaking as laymen, as experts, they may be able to figure out better insights that will lead to better solutions.
Yeah, and so on the basis of that, I just want to appeal to the appointees you know, that when some of us call you, it's not because we need anything from you. It's because we want to contribute something to.
You shouldn't pick. Encourage them not to pick.
Yeah. When you call them, they don't pick. You know, it's not like we need anything from you.
Why
we want to all contribute our quota to the development of Ghana. But when you call them, they don't pick. When you send them messages, they read, they don't respond. I don't know why they are doing this. And it's very early, to be honest. It's very early to be doing this.
I've sounded a note of caution.
Yeah.
You see, that is one of the negative characteristics of the culture of Ghanaian politics.
Somebody that used to eat with.
Yes.
I mean, go to places with. Yes. All of a sudden, they get appointments and then they feel too big to pick your calls.
And they even call you to give him money to buy fuel.
Oh, yes.
Give him money to buy food.
Oh, yes.
Today, you call the person and he ignores you.
Yes.
That is very unfortunate. But I think that kind of culture should also, because, to be frank with you, look, we are part of the problem. Because we have a mentality of making appointees demigods.
Yes.
And we think that even when they complain, we should not explain. I think we should also be part. It is a matter of attitudinal change. You have decided to be a politician. I have decided to be a lecturer. That is your path. Maybe if I wanted to be a politician, I would have been a presidential aspirant. Yes, maybe I would have been a presidential aspirant. So the fact that you have chosen a path different from mine does not make you a demigod. So I strongly believe that yes, we should all be blamed. We should all contribute to the dismantling of that mentality, the mentality of making appointees demigods. And appointees, with all humility, you are occupying positions of privilege. But you should know that you are occupying those positions in trust for Ghanaians. And therefore, your behavior and your performance should be in the supreme interest of Ghanaians. If you want to be respectable, you should be respectful. Thank you.
Prince, economy.
How many topics do we have left? No, I just want to know. So
what's the time now?
It's 9:15.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first, I think that without holding brief for any of the appointees of the president, I like to admonish those who don't pick calls to do so. It might be in your own interest to pick these calls because there might be some useful information coming your way or to benefit your ministry and therefore the objective for which the president has appointed you. Those of us who used to pick our calls for the 8 years that were in power and then in opposition for the other 8 years and still continue to keep our phones open 24/7, haven't lost anything in
it didn't make you less of a human being.
So I think I would want to appeal to those who are not doing that to do that. I think that you have touched on some things and left the corruption craze of the Akufo-Addo, administration as one of the key reasons why we may be seeing some transformation. If indeed the transformation is happening, I think a big chunk can be attributed to the fact that corruption is no longer under ascendancy and that craze is all but gone.
That's a fact.
The operation Recover All Loot, when it moves into the next gear, should see a lot of goodness. And I want to again entreat those of you on set today who last week pushed for the oral must work, not to as it were relent and keep fighting. I think also that it is important that you look at the trade ministry within the context of the new alignment of the ministries. In fact, the realignment of the ministries, particularly that of trade and youth, are important to me, and agric. You realize that there's an element of agric in the trade now, that's agribusinesses, has been added to trade. That goes to tell you the mindset of the president, and I want to take it from where Solo was talking about not just trading, but also, as it were, growing.
So is there a separate ministry for industry?
No, it's trade, industry, and agribusiness. Now,
why is agribusiness?
There's an emphasis.
I need that because if you're doing that, we should have added also textiles.
no, don't worry.
I mean, the critical component, sorry to cut you, that they should have added to the trade was finance.
Yes.
One of the problems Alan faced was people bringing their policies here and there, but finance ministry refusing to do what was right.
Yeah.
In fact, the finance ministry took away the trade fair even from Alan.
This kind of orator, that is why when I hear, don't let them go there.
No, I met with Alan a couple of times because of the trade. And yes.
They bring Harvardian nonsense to this country.
Ken was the nemesis of Alan. In fact, he signed the appointment letter for the lady.
Yes.
And the lady totally disrespected the trade minister. Didn't want to know anything. I mean, so I can understand, even though I disagree that the finance ministry or some element of finance should be added to the trade. I think that the ministries should work in sync, and that's where the cabinet becomes very important, because that's the melting pot for all the ministries to kind of like share ideas, support each other, and grow. Now, you ask yourself, why will agribusiness be added to trade when there's the agriculture ministry and then there's the aquaculture ministry? These are all technically agricultural based. You realize also that the president has done something also unique in appointing Dr. Otokuno as presidential, this director in charge of special initiatives on agribusiness, agriculture and agribusiness. So someone might think that this is superfluous. No, it means that continuously the agri and agribusiness sector will be tweaked, and you need someone to always be thinking of new initiatives and keeping an eye on that from a certain perspective outside of what the mainstream ministry is doing, because the ministry will be swamped with a lot of work in the direction of trade and so on, and then if you're not careful, you have a shrinking of the agribusiness dimension of it. But then again, the idea of import substitution is key, because if, like you said, we do not grow our own, we do not eat our own and protect our own, not too long from now we'll have to be importing, and again we'll be strengthening the dollar as opposed to the cedi. I want to disagree with you, however, that the 1D, 1F or the one district, one factory concept is not as fantastic as it's been put. I think it's an excellent slogan. For the most part, that's what it was. It was a slogan. The idea that Alan had was useful, but the government never supported it, and so it never saw the light of day. Instead of starting proper projects in the various districts, which would have been at least at minimum of about 250 serious projects, we saw whitewashing of other people's projects and being named in the name of politics as 1D, 1F projects. This time around there'll be serious projects, but I think the government's emphasis is on the human capital component, and the fact that the youth represents the biggest, most significant human capital. That's the larger population, that's the most vulnerable yet most viable component of the human resource. So you see that, for example, now you have the youth development ministry as a standalone, and it's supposed to be coordinating the National Youth Authority, the Youth Employment Agency, the NAIP, that's the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Plan, and other,
I think you started that, right? Or yours
yes,
NYA?
we started it, but then I was at NYA first. Then we did the policy.
Okay.
Then after the policy, we were asked to implement the Youth Enterprise Support, which is to wean the youth from employment, from government, to now being entrepreneurs and being supported by government to set up their own businesses and employ others. So that the burden of having to pay salaries like MPP had with the NAPCO, it is not viable to pay thousands, tens of or hundreds of thousands of young people all the time. And when you feel they would be on aluta. Yet we also recognize the fact that employment or unemployment and underemployment are actually a very serious national security problem that confronts us. However, the solution does not lie in government doing the impossible. That is, trying to dole out cash, especially when you cannot see returns on that cash that is being put. But if you give the person, and of course, it's not everybody who is a risk taker. Some people are risk averse, and they are not entrepreneurial. So you cannot expect that to push everybody in that direction. But if you get one or two entrepreneurs who then employ others who are not, entrepreneurial, then you are winning them off the job market. And I think that is a fine thing. Now, you are into entertainment, or you have been into entertainment. Yeah. You know what the gig economy represents. During COVID, the lockdown, the gig economy collapsed. People could not have entertainment programs, and it comes with a whole lot of other ancillary, things. The people with lighting, sound, I mean, it's not just the entertainment industry as, you know, a blanket. So you see that this realignment of the ministries, for example, the tourism component, there's now the Black Star experience. So the president has been putting key people at the presidency who are in charge of special initiatives such as the Black Star experience, which would then complement the gig economy within the tourism and the culture setting. Because this now is going to look at how to round the clock, all year round, come up with maybe month-on-month programs. They are not starting this year. It's been launched on May 1st. But the main activities, and that's where Rexuma is, they will be coming up with things around our culture, our festivals, getting like the Black Star experience to now pull things like, you know, Panafest used to be there. It kind of died down a little bit, and then was resurrected with a year of return, and then after the return. These, you see, yeah, but those were again slogans more for me, and I'm not being partisan at all.
No, I think you should give commendation when it's due.
No. Listen. The concept, no. I haven't said he didn't. I've said he did. But I'm saying that for me, again, I see most of those things that had potential as being more slogans than in terms of the real achievement that they could have done. Because if you look at Nkrumah's objectives for Africa, and the fact that the Pan-Africanist movement and then the diasporans out there are being won back through Panafest. If you're rejigging it, you do not go and try selling the Dubai Center. You do not just go and do a facelift of the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum and then not have the library there, but you've written it in bold letters. You should have serious things that academics who want to study can go in there. You should have this linked with, you know, other projects that people can, you know, as it were, be inspired by.
So what you're saying
drive
is that
the continent around it.
So what you're saying is that
yes,
those projects were not directly linked to tourism, because there's a difference.
They were not.
There's a difference. Because there's spiritual tourism.
Yes.
There's cultural tourism. Yes. There's traditional tourism.
Today we're even given a new tourism gig.
Yeah. because religious tourism.
Yes, there is.
Because I
hope you're not going to the National Cathedral.
I hope you're not going to the National Cathedral. But you are right, because of how a lot of these diasporans, when they come to Ghana,
yes, it should be a Mecca.
There should be some spiritual connectivity.
The point of no return. That's the gate of no return. Should be.
Propaganda is part of the whole thing.
Yes.
Why do you think people leave Ghana and go to Israel?
And go to a wailing wall and go and bring a stone and say you are building a temple.
We are going to Mecca. Is that not the case?
Yes.
You go in millions.
Yes.
It's improving the economy. Why can't we create something in our
That is what I was referring to. That, you see,
Rwanda was making millions from tourism, by the way.
But Ghana has also started something of late. You see the black Americans coming here, going to Cape Coast. Ancestral home.
You see, and if you read a great transformational plan,
yes,
that's what I was actually coming to. That's why I said that there's no tourism attached to the visit. So, for instance, you know, the year of return, it is more of celebrational than spiritual. So people come to Ghana to just come and celebrate, come and have fun.
They come and smoke. They come and smoke.
I don't know if you get my point, but it should have been that.
That's like the dirty December. They just come, have fun,
and then
we should tie it to something.
Yes,
in other words,
and that is what the Black Star. Sorry, that's what the Black Star experience is supposed to do.
That's
By now, okay.
Even if there is tourism, it is ancillary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is what the Black Star experience is supposed to do. So, like a week ago or so, my other hometown, that's Widiba, had this in the abattoir.
Yeah.
Is it a better abattoir? It should be better.
Yes.
Of course, over the years, we've not improved.
Exactly. I was watching Joy News this morning, and I could see them crossing the lagoon and all that. I mean, there are certain things that could be put in there. That's some mystical things too. You know, we can look. A lot of things that and when you go to the Smithsonian in the U.S., for example, you can spend more than 2 days without noticing that time is flying.
Yeah.
You go to places like Qatar.
Yeah.
You go to some places, and there are places that you pass through and you are not even sure which part of the world you are anymore.
Yeah.
You go on a gondola, you know, kind of ride. You go to a place and even the whole, you see the sky, but it's not really the sky. You are indoors. there's some, horse that is stuck in the ceiling to let you know that there are no such things as, no, is it a pig? No, sorry, it's a horse. That there's no such thing as a flying horse. Then you know that really you are indoors. But otherwise, the sky it's been painted like a sky, and you spend the whole time there. There are shops, there are artifacts, and before you know it, you've spent a whole lot of money.
I don't know whether the NDC has paid the Great Transmedia Plan to really read it, because everything you're talking about is in there.
No, but you see, we are in the same country.
Beyond that,
no, I'm saying that
we're looking at
great minds think alike, right? That is the
so the people that we are calling that they are not even picking. How you say that?
I pick your calls. Come on.
But you know our position. I was picking you out.
So let's talk about the economy. I like the angle.
Yeah.
So not in tourism, which is good.
Very important.
Yeah.
Very important.
You see, we need to have a system where all the various ministries are not only talking to each other, but are actually working and creating real things in the system, using real human beings. So I see a situation where, and I believe very strongly that Pablo will be doing exactly that with the youth sector. If you take sector by sector, everything piggybacks to the youth, piggybacks on the
but
human
then you
beings.
don't have a plan. You see,
No.
You see, that is why we have been taking against this idea of manifestos. If you had a plan, everybody will be feeding into the plan.
There's no plan.
There's no plan.
Even the youth policy, there's no youth policy.
Oh, please! I did the youth policy.
Hold on.
2010. Please.
Don't
go there. No, don't go there.
Can I speak?
No. It's up for review. It's up for review.
Can I speak?
But the policy is still good enough.
Please.
No, they are not implementing it.
Hold on. So now we have a youth ministry to implement it. So give them a chance.
Don't be deceived.
There is no plan.
Nomenclature.
Yeah,
Now
you
they're
give
assigned
it
to. Let me explain to you.
Yes.
When I returned from Rwanda, I came with the Rwandan youth policy, and I picked the Ghanaian youth policy, and I put them together. And I noticed that Ghana's youth policy is
It's a sham.
toilet.
Hello.
I'm
sitting right here.
Hold on. I'm saying it. So do you know what?
Have you seen this and that?
Hold on.
The implementation plan.
Hold on.
No, did you take the implementation plan together with?
I am telling you
the question I'm asking.
Hold on.
Is this a question I'm asking you?
Oh, Massa.
So tell me, yes or no?
You look, I had the policy, and I picked Rwanda's youth policy, and then I put them side by side, and I came to the conclusion that our youth policy was empty, very hollow.
Yes.
Bogus.
Very bogus. So what I did was that I sat down together with some friends of mine. We drafted a youth policy. At the time, I've forgotten who was the CEO.
When was this?
This was in 2000 and I went to Rwanda in 2000 and let's say 2018. When did Mahama lose? 2016?
2016.
Yes. So before 2016, that was 2013, 14 there about. When I came back, we drafted it. I've forgotten who was the NYA boss at the time. I went to the office, sat with the NYA boss, had a discussion. The person said, "Oh, I'm going to call you back," and that was why or something like that. That was
you went to the wrong address.
No. I've forgotten where I went to.
Yeah.
But certainly, I was directed to.
See, you are misdirected.
No.
Listen.
Yes.
These are I was listening to quietly to you.
No, I am saying that we worked on the policy. So you think that I work on the policy and not
what is
go to the right?
Or what?
No, but obviously,
I am saying that
Were you doing an academic
exactly.
exercise?
So that's what I'm saying. That you have a policy that, first of all, is very hollow. A policy that does not, outline exactly what it is that the youth of this country can do.
Yeah.
A policy that does not connect the youth to all the other sectors.
I don't know which policy you looked at. I don't know. Honestly.
So
I've listened quietly to you.
Yes.
Okay? Now, I'm not sure which youth policy you looked at. Now, there was a youth policy that was done during Kwesi Pratt's time at the National Youth Authority. You know, your father-in-law. You know, he once worked there. You know that. You know that. I also was No, I was elected CEO, and I know exactly what policy was there. The time we had a policy was 1974. In 2010.
I was back there.
We did a new youth policy and we added an action plan. Okay, Now, all these connected very well. Look, I've been around the world, been to most conferences of youth where we've drafted youth policies and aligned various policies. Ghana's youth policy is not hollow. The action plan is not hollow. So I don't know which one you looked at, but I can tell you for free. And I wish you had copies here that we can look and point to and say they don't connect. They connect very well. In fact, the new youth ministry, that's the development youth empowerment ministry, is in the policy that we drafted, and the president is implementing it today. And that, together with the youth enterprise support, which is now called the NEIP, is in the youth policy, taking away the entrepreneurship aspect, which is like first we had JIDA, so the two were together in President Kufuor's time when they didn't have the policy under the leadership of people like Awuku and what do you call it, the agenda secretary, what's his name, John Wedrenko, on the board. No, he was on the board. Okay. They never even were meeting. The board was not even meeting. But under the leadership of Mrs. Chigata, that board, of which I was deputy CEO, of which first Nkrumah's son was the leader before Sedina, and then Ras Mubarak. By the time Ras Mubarak was coming, that's the time you're talking about. That time I'd gone to the presidency as a presidential staffer, and together with another presidential staffer, the former Adenta MP, we were charged to set up the youth enterprise support, which we did just before we lost power. All right. Now MPP came, John Kuma was put there. They just changed the name and essentially it's remained the same. Look, I can tell you for free that now that NEIP is going to be transformed. And now with a youth ministry that is focused.
Your NEIP CEO doesn't pick his calls. Who feels to make
please, let's leave the phone call thing. I'll deal with it. I'm sure everybody will start picking their calls very soon. They will start picking their calls. Don't worry. But this morning I've proved to you that some of them will start picking their calls.
So you have so much confidence in the new ministry for youth and what?
You see, look, we've had youth and sports.
Yes.
We've had youth and education.
Yes.
We've had youth and many other things. And what has happened is that over time, like the sports component takes over the shine.
Yeah, that's
we
true.
never had a budget
That's true.
for the youth sector because even the sports, they were not having a budget. It was youth and football. Look, let's face facts.
I have a problem with that ministry standing alone. You know why? Every sector or every ministry has a youth component.
Exactly.
So how are they going to coordinate?
Thank you very much. No, that is actually the point we're making. You see, every ministry impacts on the youth.
Yes.
So the idea is to have a minister who will interact with his colleague ministers and tease out aspects of their programs that will be including budgets. So let's say, for example, the youth have a health program, quote unquote. It should not be the Ministry of Youth business to have a budget for health. It should be that minister's business
so the youth ministry was
it's a coordinating ministry. It is a coordinating ministry.
That is a duplicity.
No, it's not duplicity.
If you take a ministry, let's take a
agency head to a minister. The kind of relationship that will exist versus a minister, a full minister, and a colleague minister.
You take a ministry like education.
Yes.
Education is practically about the youth.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So for me, the original idea of the youth ministry being under education should have been maintained.
No.
Because
who plays football? Who does sports? Now we don't even have the sports as you envisage.
Now you are educating youth and sports.
Do you know why even it is now education, sports and recreation? Do you know why?
Why?
I'll tell you. Do you know preventive health care costs us less than the kind of health care system that we have? If you are doing recreation, the peace of mind, the stress levels that goes down, do you know how it impacts on you?
Yes.
Now, beyond that, there are so many other aspects.
So you need a ministry before you can implement
I'm just saying
that is another. You are telling them that you want to streamline things. Now you are more creating more complicities in the system.
No. So there's this thing called what is in the name. All right, it gives you the idea and the mindset of the person who has engineered it.
Yes.
He's giving his ministers marching orders. Go and look at each one's terms of reference. Then you can gauge them. But don't sit and pretend that you know what the president was thinking when he set up and gave his ministers the marching orders. No, I am saying to you that I'm saying to you. I'm saying to you. For example, you had a trade ministry. You had a trade ministry. You were saying that they should add finance to it because of the problems that Alan faced that you and I know from Ken Ofriata. No, Ken Ofriata was Alan's problem. And you were saying, in fact, you admitted on set, and I know for a fact because Alan admitted to me about the trade fair. In fact, I had to stop them from selling the trade fair for $2 billion.
Yes.
They went to Dubai to go and sign that contract for half of that. Listen, the trade fair to be sold for $2 billion. Stella Holding of Singapore. I stopped them. Because we put in a listen to Parliament to stop that thing.
But they are still having they sold.
It's not been sold. There's a new government in place. The fact that the old government is still doing things there doesn't mean that, look, the National Cathedral hasn't continued any further. This government is not going to rush into things just for the sake of it. People will be pursued. Do you know that the Financial Intelligence Center has called Magdalene to come and answer questions about some bank transactions related to
that one I know.
So I'm saying to you that it's not a rush. Governance is not a day's event.
Yes.
There will be a series of activities that go on. In the end, Ghanaians will not be shortchanged. That's why I am lauding you guys for keeping this operation Return All Loot must work.
Yes, the demonstration is going to come. Yes,
so you just keep calm.
Yes.
This president is going to deliver.
You have been keeping calm since Kwame Nkrumah said that. And always
the government has been in place for how many months? 4
months.
No, I agree. But you are not picking calls. I'm telling you, for next week they'll start picking calls. Those who are not misbehaving.
I don't know whether you want to know
Do you know the funniest thing?
Yes.
On Friday.
Yes.
On Friday.
Yes.
I was in somebody's office. And I don't want to mention the person's name. The person was full of himself. He wants to talk to you. I just want to make a point. The person wants to talk to you. Doesn't want to talk to you. That kind of attitude. So I just picked my phone and said, you know what? Let me just call Chief of Staff.
Yes.
Brother, when I called the wrong one, say hello, Kwame. How are you? I said I'm fine. Hold on. Kwame
is chief for
you. So Kwame, I'm traveling to Kumasi, so let's meet this week. He knows I don't need anything from him.
Yes.
I'm just going there for an important discussion.
Chief, every morning, he would send me a text message.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Respond to messages. And that
this is the chief of staff. The chief of staff.
No, if you send him a message, he needs a response. So I am surprised. And I'm sure that, look, the apprentices who are not behaving will start behaving.
This thing relax. It's not proper.
It's all right.
Because one of the things that NPP did that angered many of us.
Yes.
That's the beginning of arrogance.
So didn't I talk to you how I went and sat in Abu Jinapo's office?
Yeah. That
you gave me 11 o'clock. I got there at 10.
Which of the Abu Jinapos?
The NPP Abu Jinapo.
Okay.
Abu Jinapo is Abu Jinapo.
The one who's been taking my lands, stealing my lands.
That one I don't know.
But Achimota Forest, what are they introducing other boys?
Anyway,
144.
The WhatsApp is rebooting. I don't know why it is. It says we have to update the WhatsApp, so it's updating.
So you see, you haven't rebooted your thing.
I'm surprised.
You're talking about politics. Reboot that thing.
We are talking about rebooting. Rebooting.
No, but seriously, that thing must stop. The appointees.
No, it's very
arrogant.
What kind of life is that? You just got an appointment right now. Even this boy, Basitali.
No, I said boy.
I mean, this man. Yes. Apologies.
Boy that metamorphosed into a man.
But you see,
but Muhammad described that boy Basitali. So I want to describe him in that sense. That boy Basitali.
No, but
and then Osman.
Osman, is he there? What is his portfolio?
He doesn't pick up.
You are never big a call, Osman. The last time I wanted to find out.
I'm telling you, some of them is so funny.
You call Osman and see.
Call him on there. I like that. Osman. Call him on there. It's so funny because see, these are guys that and I'm not. It's not like I'm calling for it.
It's so sad.
He's an
Politics is so funny.
He's a gentleman.
Anyway, I have a message from Reverend Father Jojo Jepi Gabra. Reverend Father Jojo Jepi Gabra says, good morning to KOD and co-religious tourism.
Osman has picked the call.
No, because somebody said to me.
You are lying on set. Osman has picked the call.
Osman doesn't pick us. Osman doesn't pick us. He knows he doesn't pick us.
Thank you for picking the call. Osman.
I'm telling you,
I said all the appointees will pick calls. Osman will pick the call. All the apprentices will start
because it's you, President.
But I'm telling you, why would I come and sit on TikTok to everybody? Anyway, the system will work.
They need to learn. You are serving people in this country, they call you.
But anyway, the young apprentices allow them to grow. Allow them to grow.
They are already adults.
Osman is a gentleman.
Yes.
All the young apprentices.
I think they are misplacing the argument. Nobody is saying he's not a gentleman.
Yes.
He doesn't pick us.
But he's picked.
He's a gentleman.
He picks the call. He doesn't pick my call. He doesn't pick.
So
it doesn't.
We will talk to them. They all pick us.
Justice Appiah walked to me one time and I was complaining bitterly. Justice Appiah walked up to me one time and was complaining bitterly. I said, Kwame, me and Osman, no,
will take the course. All of them will take the course. Around them.
So me and Osman,
appointment by legs.
Not till they have to start. It's annoying.
They will stop.
Anyway, from Reverend Father Jojo Jepigabra says community KOD and co-religious tourism. Yes, there's a 200-year-old death register with the names of dead British soldiers who died in the Cape Coast Castle. It includes that of late Captain George McLean, his wife, and hundreds of others. There's also a necro.
Truly African.
Good evening and a warm welcome to the program. This is your most authoritative news and current affairs program, Hot News, with me, David Otokuno Ato. It's a Friday and the weekend is just about to begin. But first of all, let me just do this. It's just been...
Mention his name because I've not saved the number, but he sent it to me on my phone. I presume he has... okay. So, if you can add your name so that I will read it out. Okay. So, let me go on Facebook and see if I can read some of the messages on Facebook as well. For those of you who are watching on Facebook, kindly share your views with us. Okay, somebody has sent a text. Okay, so yeah, the WhatsApp is still rebooting. So if you can send
It's resetting,
Kwame, you are the host. Hey, share. Once you need.
Can't read that one. Read that one.
He said you have destroyed Ghana with your MPP. The person is still living in, I don't know, 17th century. Okay, all those sending messages on Samija and Fees matter, I'm not reading it because I'm not discussing it.
Have we discussed it? We've not discussed it.
We moved on.
What are the messages? Hey, even Facebook, I can't see the messages. What's going on? Okay. No, we'll get them.
There's a meltdown on social media. Too much traffic.
Alaji Haruna in Ashama says, KOD, the shadow vice president, fire. Tell them. Yes. Anto Osei, he's the one who sent the message. Anto Osei, he said, good morning, KOD. In politics, you either ride a horse or you stand by to watch the polo game. US donates 14 armored vehicles to Ghana. Ghanaians must check the GPS because I know what happened in Mali. Hey, Charlie. Okay. Yeah. Okay, listen. Let's move on to the other topics because the WhatsApp is still rebooting. I'll make sure I read most of the messages here on the show.
So, if any other apprentice was sending you a message by WhatsApp, it won't come. Is that the case?
No, this. No. Pray don't mind you.
Why would you mind me?
There's one interesting story that I want us to touch on before. It's 9:45, but so we can spend a few minutes to spend. Until Fort dragged before police CID over 600,000 contract fraud. I don't know where they got that story from, but yeah.
Give us the details.
And Ayawaso West Wogon violence. President says ASP Azugu cooperating with NIB investigations. I'm interested in this story because I was part of the Agbewo demonstration. I actually went on that demonstration and I was dragged on fake. The way I was dragged for embarking on this demonstration with Ama. NPP people went and took a picture. I think UTV interviewed me or something like that. Yes. And then they went and took a picture and started blasting us on their socials. Wow. Yes. Why will Kwame Osu also be part of an NDC organized demonstration? Yes. Of Good Morning Africa. Yes. They went and blasted us. And today you call them and they don't pick. Anyway, President, let me come to you. Ayawaso West Wogon violence is being investigated by NIB. I'm told that the parties involved are cooperating.
I'll dash you my chip, so when you call them, they'll pick.
How might you, praise? How might you?
Anyway, I was hoping.
But it's not all of them. Let me be very honest. It's not all of them who do that. Some of them.
No, but I think we need to make this a special project, and I think the president needs to talk with the appointees. The chief also must. Those who are doing these things are not helping the system. I think it's not good. Please pick your calls. Pick your calls. Answer messages. It's so simple. You didn't give us the details of the 600 fraud.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for it in the daily.
Okay,
but let's discuss the Azugu one, and then we'll come back to it. Well, so now if you can find that story for me, please.
No, on the Azugu one, I think it goes to more of election security than anything, and then also recruitment of unfit persons into security services. People like Double and Co were given 2 weeks training and transformed from mobile phone sellers into national security operatives, wielding guns and unleashing mayhem on Ghanaians. In fact, I was in the IGP's office together with the General Secretary of the NDC, the chairman of the NDC, Marietta Brew Apiopon, now advisor to the president, then former attorney general, and other leading NDC stalwarts on the day of the Ayawaso West Wogon. After a press conference at the NDC headquarters, we went and met with the IGP and his entire police.
Which IGP are you referring to?
The IGP at the time of Ayawaso West Wogon.
All right, okay.
And he indicated that they had just come from the police training depot at Tesako and were totally unaware of what had happened in Ayawaso. As at the time that the thing had already finished happening, about an hour plus after the NDC had a press conference, having pulled out of the Ayawaso West Wogon thing, the IGP and his entire police high command said they didn't know anything about it. Can you imagine? So something as major as this was going on, and the police didn't know. So Ayawaso West Wogon was being done on the blind side of the police. Now, number two is that you recall what Kandapa, National Security Minister, said. He said he also didn't know. It was on his blind side. Meanwhile, a certain Minister of State at the Office of the President responsible for national security, called Brian Chapo, the same Brian Chapo who was there to buy the hotels at the trade fair, the same one, said he was responsible for that. All right? He was not fired. He was kept on. And a certain soldier who led operations was promoted under that president, who actually threw away the white paper that was done by people like Professor Mensa Bonsu, the former strike boss, the fairman, what's his name? The husband of the Emil Short. He's the husband of Shelly Ayuko Botre. Former husband. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know. Okay. I heard it was husband. Okay. These people put together a report and the president tore it to shreds. An MP was slapped by these people. People were shot at. People were maimed. In fact, breadwinners were maimed. The president didn't even care. about the people. The former first deputy speaker of parliament, Joe Wise, said some very foolish things. He wasn't a wise man at all when it came to Ayawaso West Bogo. He said those people are criminals and should have been shot. Just the same way he said stupid things about those who were shot at Techiman and Ku. They were criminals. That's his verdict. And so if they've been shot, they've been shot. You see, the callousness with which we deal with our fellow human beings and fellow countrymen beggars belief. This was the handiwork of the you see, J. Mensah and those people, they should go. What's the other guy? Bosman Asari. This was their first activity. In fact, the other one, the other Tescon guy, he was not part of the team at the time, the Tuahini or whatever, who was also brought in. Apiahini. Another Tescon guy, just like Bosman Asari. But Bosman.
Are they responsible for election security?
No, the EC as an entity is responsible for the elections. And therefore, everything to do with elections, hold on. Everything to do with elections is the EC's business. Now, as far as election security,
let him just land.
As far as election security, particularly is concerned, it should have been the police.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what should be done to the should have been?
What should be done to the
But
culprits?
the police said they didn't know. That's why I started from the fact that the entire, it's not like hearsay. I was with General Mosquito and the chairman, etc., in the office of the IGP at the police headquarters.
Two things
they said they didn't know.
Look, either complicity or irresponsibility. You are not aware.
Okay, so that brings me to you then.
Yes.
But heads should have rolled. Azugu was kept in place. Yeah. Today, he's answering to questions. So, the same way, this president has indicated that the Techiman and other election-related things must be dealt with.
All right, thank you.
Are going to be dealt with.
Thank you, Prince.
This president is going to do all the right things that were left undone.
All right, thank you.
We must support him.
Very well, of course.
We must support him. And also ensure that the oral works.
Let me talk to Dr. Mauduk on this Azugu matter.
Charlie, before you close, you have to give me 1 minute to there's still nonsense going on. Binduri too, there's nonsense going on.
Okay.
Oh, really? Charlie, there are burning houses in Binduri. Still, over chieftaincy issues.
Oh, and
my people in Laos also fully over chieftaincy issues.
Then I'll give you 1 minute.
Thank you very much.
So you can go ahead.
Oh, right now?
You finish.
Okay, so I want to make an appeal to the security agencies. We should not wait till our country bends totally. We saw what happened in Boku. Yesterday I saw on set. Charlie, it's bad. People's houses are just being touched during the curfew hours.
Because of what?
The same problem. The same chieftaincy nonsense. You understand? And sometimes these things start small, but they end up becoming a blot, not just on our country as a destination for investors and so on, as we've discussed, the effects on the economy of investment and so on. But whole people are being, put in a situation where, they have to always be in flight. People have left their homes. Government officials cannot stay. Even the police are not safe. This cannot continue. So when I see the beginnings of such nonsense happening in my own backyard in La, I think that we must call people to order. And I think that the national security, the chieftaincy ministry, the presidency, and everybody should take a serious look at what is happening in La.
Dr. Mauzuk.
The nonsense must stop.
You see, the Ayawaso issue is an illustration of mockery of our democracy and quackery of our criminal justice system. I'm telling you. Look, why should only one person be answering by now? Why not the person who boasted that he led the demonstration? He led that idiocy. I'm sorry to use that word. He led it. Why is he walking free? So when you come here and you want to glorify somebody because he has said somebody is being prosecuted, it's so annoying. You and I have been on this side and have made countless appeals to all relevant state institutions to tackle all kinds of electoral violence, from Techiman barbarity to Ayawaso brutality. And today, more than 4 months after a new government, only Azuga is being investigated, and you want me to laugh? This is mockery and quackery. We cannot be happy about this. I know that, yes, prosecution is time-consuming. It is not an event. It is a process. But the process itself should be realistic. The process should not be selective. It should be holistic. The process should start with the leading culprits or leading alleged culprits. Why this man? And in the case of police administration claiming that it did not know, two things are at play. Either irresponsibility in relation with sleeping on your job, or complicity. The administration cannot run. The then IGP cannot run away from that. Let me be fair, not the present administration, but the then police administration. And I'm here challenging that the police command, the police high command, that at that time. Today, we are still talking about Azuga. Azugu. Thank you for the correction. Azugu. Why not Brian Achampo? Why not any other the culprit? Why not those who boasted? Look, as for infiltrating national security with partisan attacks, it didn't start today and it will not end today. Unless, of course, Ghanaians rise against that negative culture. It has been the tradition. You have party tax being branded as national security personnel. And these party tax seem to even be more powerful than the officially trained national security operatives.
Yeah.
And that is the kind of problems we are facing.
The ones who slapped Sam George.
Can you imagine this? So until we make our national security apparatus an institution of state, not that of a political party, we will continue to witness this nonsense.
We have to follow keenly. So, no, conclude for us.
I mean, there is no need to be reinventing the rules. The recommendations by the commission that was established.
Is that
first?
They said double and Sakomia then had to be prosecuted. They said the president slapped Sam George had to be prosecuted.
Yes.
They recommended Azugu be reprimanded and also relieved of his role as the national security. And they said there has to be a proper command structure. So if you have all these and you don't implement them and they set up, what's the president saying? That they are still going to investigate. It's wasting our resources. Go and implement the white paper that was, or the recommendations of the commission, and let's move on. Rather than that, you'll be going in circles. One of the problems that we have in this country is that the moment political parties win power, then they forget about their own promises. I think power is sweet. Yes. Maybe I have not tasted some before, so I don't know how it is. You have tasted some before. Tell me, how is it?
That you were in MP before.
But being an opposition with a
he was in opposition
because sometimes, PD, the way and manner we easily forget marvels me.
Charlie?
Sir.
Only last 5 months, look at the issues that we were discussing. All of a sudden, it's gone. So we are waiting for
another
election season, then we bring all the issues out. It doesn't work like that. We must have a truly independent institutions pursuing issues.
Also appeal to the president. If the president wants the prosecution of electoral, election-related violence to be truly Ghanaian, truly patriotic, then he should extend it to the gruesome murder of NPP functionaries in the era of NDC at Agboboloshi. That would be fantastic. Gruesome murder. In fact, they were murdered in the presence of police. And nothing happened. Nothing. Throughout the regime, nothing happened. NPP came and never opened any case against anybody. Because you see, look, it's like the criminalization.
You have normalized it.
You have normalized it. It has become a normal situation.
They hurt you
Okay.
Yes, and the two.
My time is up.
And that also brings.
By the
And that-
NPP football.
Yes.
And attempts at equalization.
Yeah, no, we're not equalizing. We are saying that
See,
every crime
that is
is a
the sad
crime.
thing
Every
is that
regime is a
Afenyomakin
crime.
and what's his name?
No.
Afenyomakin and Edubahin and Atachia were trying to do with this so-called.
But we are interested in the names that he is claiming. Everyone, the name that is claiming that
But he's
in
lying.
opposition, they took money. How would you know? Maybe you didn't take the money, so how can you pass for?
Why put it in
It is all traceable.
No, he says in opposition.
NDC,
So
NPP,
it's for us to push him to give us the names of those who have that cash.
the tyranny of NDC,
We didn't take anything.
And NDC too didn't take.
But how can this people
is there?
tyranny of NDC,
You are giving a guy any some clues. You go and say that
LPG. Maybe they took. But this is their demonstration. How many parties joined them? Only 2.
Thank you
So
very
those are
much.
the most likely.
But the one is not even a political party.
But the whole thing was talking was nonsense.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nonsense. Thank you, Solo. Thank you, President Geji. Unfortunately, the WhatsApp is still rebooting, so I will not be able
The
to read
appointees are holding your phone.
your messages today. Thank you very much for your time. Let me say a big thank you to the viewers for your time this morning. My name is Kwame Usuda, so I'll see you tomorrow. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.